Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. I'm back. That's right, summer holidays are over, the kids are back in school, and if you're a fan of my Facebook page, you will have seen the dancing baboon in all of its full glory spread across my status update. That's right, I sound like the world's biggest summer Scrooge. It's not the case, I promise you. It's just nice to be able to have the house to myself every now and again now, so I can get some sitcom goodness back in our lives, which is, face it, we all need in order to remain sane. I know I got the odd cast out over the summer, and before that I took a bit of a break with the whole birth of my child thing, but I also got the odd one out there. But now we can return to normal schedule, I hope. And since Tuesdays and Thursdays were working pretty well before I went away, let's return to it. And with that in mind, it is Tuesday today, and I thought a custom 5v5 with an eclectic mix of Joes and pros would be just the tonic that we needed. And with that in mind, I've got a nice game here that's going to go down on the Pyramid 5v5. So let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. So as you can see, not the biggest ratio, or sorry, difference in ratios or in terms of global rating, but still some definite Joes in there and the odd veteran, the odd pro. Let's take a look at our players. We'll call this Team 1 up here at the top right as usual, and this Team 2 down here in the bottom. Going first for Team 1 up here, rearguard air position. It's my good friend and fellow caster Brink Insanity, and here he is in baby blue going Cybrin. Bless him, he can't get everything right. Opening first land to his south. Team member number 2 for Team 1, we have Dark Anubis. He is going Seraphim in Elephantine Grey, opening first land. Team member number 3 for Team 1. Next, it's a Flying Potato, and he is the winner of this week's Amusing Name Award in Electric Blue, going UEF, how very sensible, and opening first land. Team member number 4 up here in Mellow Yellow, it's Ionic, and he is going Seraphim, opening first land. And last but not least, right up front, we have Virosa in Vivacious Violet, so all the V's in full effect there, going UEF, opening first land. So we've got 2 UEF, 2 Seraphim, and a Cybrin, almost a full house for the races, but alas, obviously some Aeon prejudice going on in Team 1. Less said about that, the better. Let's take a look at Team 2. Rearguard air position, first of all, down here, we have Big Bang, NA, I presume that means something like North America, or nah. And he is going Cyanide Scion, Seraphim, again, all of the, well, phonetic S's, shall we say, and opening first land and going second air. To his right over here in Pontiff White, it's none other than Chevalier, seasoned veteran, opening with first, second land, going third air, and he's going Cybrin. Team member number 3 for Team 2, already on the move to the middle. Always happens on 5v5s. You can never get through this bit without that all taking off and trying to grab some territory. It's Lord Ratto, and he is going Aeon in Hallyborange Orange, opening well, just going land all day, actually. 4 land factories queued up there for his start. Still in his base for the moment, we have Hickstery, while the players go through a whole load of pausing. In Hickstery is going Seraphim in Ferrari Red, opening first land, second air, third land. And last but not least, well on his way to the middle, in Lurid Green, going UEF, it's Ono, and he opened first land. So there we are, Team 2 comprising of all the races this time. Seraphim, Cybrin, Aeon, and another Seraphim, and a UEF. There we go. So a decent mix. I'm not sure it's going to make too much of a difference having the presence there of Aeon. Of course, perhaps these guys are going random. It's not really that usual to see a rearguard air position from a pro pick Cybrin. It's usually typically a Seraphim or an Aeon roll, but that is just the way of things. We've got a Skyhook out there for Brink. He's going to be going after these plateau mexes on the eastern edge of the map. In fact, he's going for a little bit more of that if that waypoint is accurate. He's coming right down here, and looks like he might be trying to get a bit of a proxy base on and maybe try and snag the 3 mexes. Might have a bit of a issue though, of course. One lone assassin, a Mantis inbound there from Chevalier, well aware of what Brink is likely to be up to. He's determined to stop it, and I think he's going to manage that. I don't see any offensive units on board that Skyhook. That's pure build capacity. And down they go. Is it both of them or just one? It is both of them, so 2 engineers going to fall foul of that Mantis. Always nice to pick those up. You've got to try these things. You've got to try them, especially if you're facing off against someone like Chevalier. Well, although he's not, his mirrors, of course, the air player down here in the bottom left, that's Big Bang. In terms of the way this is set out, they've actually tried pretty hard to balance it. Chevalier is probably the biggest issue. Well, I'm not actually sure what the rating of Brink is. He can't be too far off 1600, 1700, but certainly it's a slight mismatch on the right-hand edge between Chevalier and Dark Anubis. Dark Anubis yielding 300 global ranking there. And while we're talking about that, he's also going to lose a mass extracted Chevalier with 5 Mantis crawling up past the center. Dark Anubis with his ACU nearby, but of course not going to stand any chance of catching up with those, unless of course they decide to wheel right in towards him. That would be a horrible error, but he's not going to. He's going to continue to press on. One of the Mantis will be picked up, and so will another one lagging behind. Like he's having a terrible issue with the hill there. It does happen. Cyber software not really the best, as we're well aware. Down goes a mass extractor, and with not a lot in the area, Dark Anubis could stand to lose a little bit more. Another mech's potentially under threat, and also an engineer that's in the vicinity. One THAM is going to unload on the first Mantis that's going to come into the view. We do have a couple of units in support there from Verosa, but they're all coming in at one at a time, which is never ideal. As a result, those 3 Mantis make it up onto the plateau. That's going to be another dead mech. So a couple of easy pickups there for Chevalier. He'll be pleased with that, even if it doesn't hamper his opponent dramatically. Those mechs is already being reconstructed in the center there. Chevalier still yet to get any units down to that bottom right-hand corner. We'll go to the center now and see what's going on. Developments down here. It looks like Ono has got the T2 upgrade on his comm, and that has allowed him to get a few triads in place. Flying Potato chose a very precarious position to upgrade his comm there, and as a result he's been eating T2 point defense fire for some time. He's down to around 9,000 or just below 10,000 HP, but he backs up out of it, managing to complete that upgrade. And Ono now going to work that PD into a bit of a point defense creep. Going to supplement it with shielding as he goes. We have got an upgrade going down on Verosa as well. He's a little ways off completing that. He's fortunate though to have Flying Potato nearby, because Ono relatively well set up at the moment. Going back to the bottom right hand corner where the action is heating up. Dark Anubis was pushing forward. Chevalier manages to force him out of the area, but has taken a little bit of damage on his comm, down to around 7,000 HP. Meanwhile, up here, History doing some nice work, has forced Ionic right back. Ionic's ACU getting an upgrade up here, so he's in the area. We already have some Ilshivas emerging for him, so he's up to T2 tech. Things progressing relatively quickly, as they often do on a large map such as this. Plenty of mass, so players not hampered on their upgrades. But Dark Anubis looking very aggressive indeed, bringing his ACU forward, now taking fire from a T1 PD, which is already walled. So Chevalier anchoring himself to this position relatively well. Dark Anubis not firing any overcharges into it, so I'm wondering if he's got access to it. Certainly doesn't look like he's going to need it anyway though, because he's got Zuis in the area, which are going to be able to take that down nice and quickly. So far, Dark Anubis not looking like he's having any issues with that rating disparity between him and Chevalier. In fact, Chevalier forced to back up. The Seraphim Commander, though, of course, slightly more beefy than the Cybrid one. Certainly a lot of ground being yielded early on. Big Bang slowly drawing across the bottom of the map, going after the bottom right-hand corner mechs. The top left-hand corner mechs is still yet to be claimed as well, although there are engineers in the area for both Big Bang and Hickstery. Verosa trying to chase down a few extra units coming in from Lord Ratto now, who's going after a triad that's been nicely placed. Well, you would think it was nicely placed up on the plateau there, but the land just getting in the way, blocking the occasional shot. So effectiveness reduced from that angle. Nonetheless, Barossa manages to save it with 624 hit points remaining with his ACU. Oh no, getting quite nicely set up in the center now, shielded with TMD and lots of point defense. Flying Potato eating quite a bit of fire, but he gets a shield of his own up, so that's going to give him a little bit of respite. He's also working on as much T2 PD as he can, but look how far forward Anubis has come. He might have bitten off more than he can chew. Looks like he's coming back now, but in comes a Corsair for Brink. Takes a shot at a T2 mech belonging to Chevalier there, but Chevalier is quick to move in with his T1 interceptors and take that out. Brink did follow it up with some of his own inties, but definitely doesn't have the number to take control of the skies. Another Corsair comes in, fires a shot, but doesn't manage to kill it. That T2 mech still on over 1,000 HP, and he's going to get shot down as well. So not the most effective use of those Corsairs there for Brink. Brink now getting an upgrade on his comm. Has that T2 HQ now, obviously, as we've seen, but not building anything from it as yet. Wants to get the upgrade done first, no doubt. Things heating up in the top left. Meanwhile, Onyx trying to get some T2 PD in place, and when he manages it, suddenly gets the ranged advantage against Hickstree's T1 units that are just kind of patrolling the area in front of his position. But Hickstree, with his ACU in the area, queued up some shields, T2 PDs, all that jazz. But Flying Potato and Barossa definitely don't have as much D as Ono. Ono's set up pretty nicely, but they are looking relatively aggressive with those Vipers in the area. So the main exchange at the moment seems to be between Mobile Missile Launcher and TMD. We do have 1 point defense that's trading blows. Anubis grabbing an upgrade on his commander, anchored to the spot for the moment. Chevalier was looking to push, but suddenly runs into a wall of FAMs that's come in for Anubis to reinforce the area. Take a quick look at Eco. So leading the charge, as you would expect, is Chevalier on 97 mass per tick for generated Eco. And then we move down to the 70 mark, the sort of 70s marks. We've got 75 there for Big Bang. Brink is on 61 or so. Oh no, must be reclaiming. That cannot be accurate. 111. And there it drops back down to 60. And his shield drops for a moment. Perhaps a sign that that Flapjack fire, sorry, I just realized I called them Vipers a moment ago. Flapjack fire a little bit too heavy, too much for the TMD to keep up with. Another shield gen on the way though. Should secure things for the moment. Might want to think about getting a Clink Hammer involved, if only for the name. But if you can deal with those Flapjacks, there's really very little on the ground for Team 2 in the center now. Flying Potato sitting there with his ACU and 1 TMD and 2 T2 PDs. So really not a lot going on there for Team 1. And by the looks of things, Ono looking to extend that point defense line even further. So I think that is going to be a hold for Team 2. Lord Ratto looks pretty comfortable over to the left as well. Several Oblivions in place. Hickstree has managed to grab control of the midpoint, so has a slight advantage there, and he's also in possession of the top left corner as well. So things not looking great at the moment for Team 1. Big Bang moving into position potentially to flank Anubis, although there are a few Ilshavas in the pack there. Everything on the ground here for Big Bang is all T1, so not likely to last too long against that, even if he is able to combine the attack with Chevalier's forces. Chevalier quite far back with his ACU under shield coverage over here, so it's not like this is a particularly secure position. If Anubis decided to stroll on further forward, he could. Of course, that would put him deep in enemy territory when you think of the locations of Big Bang to the bottom right and Ono to the center. But there goes the central position of Flying Potato, who is now fleeing the desert. Wise decision indeed, but that is yielding an awful lot of eco now to Team 2. They really have stamped their authority on this one. Hickstry picking up more point defense, but I think you could probably think a little bit more aggressively than that. All of Ionic's forces now moving towards the center, with the exception of his ACU, to help defend this position here. Or I might actually think about pushing a counterattack, trying to catch out some of Hickstry's forces. But again, static T2 PD and a few static T2 artillery emplacements might not go amiss in some of these locations, but Ionic looking like he's mustering for an attack here. Might be a little bit of a mistake. Hasn't got the forces to deal out any damage. We have T3 air in place now for T1. Brinko Insanity currently spamming up hives around that solitary factory at the back there. We also have T3 in place there for Big Bang, so two air forces proceeding in tandem for the moment, in parallel, and the game slows to a crawl in terms of action as team members and players decide what their next move is, basically just ecoing for the moment. Chevalier getting an upgrade on his commander there. Taking a look at where things are in power terms, Brinko Insanity on 4K, but Big Bang in front of him significantly on 6.4. That should give him an advantage in terms of pumping out ASFs. Take a quick look at Air Force numbers for the moment. 10 ASFs there for Brink, and 19 out there for Big Bang. So advantage in the air game for Team 2, at least for the moment. Other players still producing T1 inties at this point, I'd say rather unnecessarily. We think about upgrading or leaving the air game altogether. In fact, scout planes coming out over here as well and just getting insta-gibbed by T3 anti-air over there. Units of build capacity brought in there for Ono, no doubt looking to get his hands on some of this reclaim up here. But it has suddenly gone very quiet indeed. None of these guys wanting to push an agenda right now. All sitting in their base, all turtling or ecoing. Real action going on anywhere right now is the trading of mobile missile fire between Ono and Verosa up at the front. We are getting a little bit of an exchange over here between Ionic and Hickstry. Could this be the push we've been waiting for as Hickstry strolls out of his shield towards the enemy? The shield of Ionic is down, as he had it intentionally out of commission to save power. Ixtree, with 20,000 hit points on his comm at full health, is down to around 14,000 now. The shield has come back up. He's thrown a few overcharges into that pack of Ilsheva and basically disbanded it altogether. Units coming into the area now just need to get inside that shield gen to take it down, but the amount of fire colliding with the shield has put it offline already. Down goes the structure. But with Ionic spamming together T1 PD back here, that should be enough to get rid of these Ilshevas. Damage increasing exponentially as more and more defensive structures go online, so Ixtree is forced to back up. Took an awful lot of a kicking there, down to half health, just 11,800 hit points and climbing on his comm there. But the shield was down. The new one is promptly rebuilt. A lot of the static emplacements that were in the center have been taken out as well. Flapjack fire still being exchanged in the center. And not a lot going on the front between Anubis and Chevalier. We do have a megalith which is under construction over here. Not a huge amount of build capacity devoted to it though, so construction will be slow on that. Spy plane out for Brink, trying to get an idea of what's going on that side of things. And we have a nuke launcher queued up at the back there for Brink. Wondering if there's anything that's going to be going on the other side of things. Well, I can't see one yet, so Brink having the advantage there. Ideally, you'd want a couple of strategic missile defense to go up relatively soon, but there's not a great deal of scouting of bases going on from Team 2 that I've seen. We do have spy planes going up now as we speak from Big Bang. Take a look at what he can see. So the right one runs into a horde of ASFs, gets shot down very quickly indeed, but if he's paying attention, and I assume he would be, he will see the structure there of the nuke launcher. And you definitely want to react ASAP. And there we go, a strategic missile launcher. So he's not going for SMD, he's going to try and outbuild Brink. Try and get that nuke first and deal the damage. Personally, I don't like that play. Someone's going for a nuke launcher. I would rather get an anti-nuke in. It's quicker, it's less risky. Nothing stopped you going for both, of course, but I'd start with the defense if you noticed your opponent's ahead of you and devoting resources to it. One or two of those hives might be in range of it as well, which adds a lot of assisted build power to the missile if he wants it. Ton of reclaim just begging to be picked up here, but not a lot of build capacity to do it. We do have the odd T2 engineer which is coming in now. Ionic actually working on artillery emplacements. I don't think that's the right call at this moment in time. His biggest threat really is a ground rush, and he's got PD back here, but I'd like a few more up front before I start worrying about that. Maybe getting a few more artillery emplacements a little bit further back as well. You do not need them that close. These two trying to outbuild each other now. Ixtree spamming up T2 PDs with a lot of build capacity to assist him. And you can see the shield's taking an absolute kicking. That Rear one about to drop. And there it goes. Front one still at 50%. Ionic desperately trying to spam another shield up, but in come the Zuis for Hickstry. Still an exceptionally cost-effective unit. And you're talking about this kind of warfare, but Ionic quick to re-establish some shield coverage. This is where he really needs more point defense. You have the odd Otham entering the fight now for Ionic, and meanwhile an exchange down here at the bottom as well between Anubis and Chevalier. Gonna have to go to split screen to keep an eye on these two theaters. Anubis getting shield coverage in play, but is under sustained loyalist attack now. He does have some T3 units in there, but, well, a T3 unit, but it's just a Suthanus T3 mobile arty, so I'd rather have some siege tanks in the fray, I'm sure. However, Ilshiva's doing a pretty good job so far. Back to the top left, Hickstry's shield has been taken out. Ionic actually, surprisingly, holding on relatively well with what he had. And another bout of units coming in now for Hickstry. Ilshiva's marching forward, and the shield coverage for Ionic about to drop again, but he gets another one up and online. Structure destroyed for that one on the top left though. And I'm wondering whether he's going to have to finally concede defeat and back off out of this position. Meanwhile, back down to the bottom right, a little bit of support coming in now from Oh No, from the center, a couple of Titans. The base or small shielded area is in tatters for Dark Anubis. That has been destroyed, but he hasn't given up the territory. He still has units in play. He's got a T3 land factory there. However, he is under flapjack attack from the plateau to the left. I like what I've seen. Ionic not giving up, has tons of shield coverage now. And it's actually Hickstry which is backed off out of it. Doesn't want any more to do with that. Maybe he feels it's not going the way he would like. You can afford to go back to single screen now as a Fat Boy appears in the center for Oh No, living up to his name, bombarding Flying Potato, who's going to have to retreat slightly, try and get under shield coverage, but just as he does, that shield capitulates under the weight of Fat Boy artillery fire. So Potato continues his retreat. A few clink hammers up front and a Ravager. Been taking pot shots at the Fat Boy, but the Fat Boy's still in relatively good shape. 65 odd % in terms of shield, but Anubis again with a counter push, doing phenomenal work at the moment against Chevalier. Couple of trebuchets getting caught out there. Otham should manage to snag those. Happened to that megalith that was being constructed earlier? Well, there's your answer. It's online and promptly marching towards the front.
Strategic launch detected.
And there it is. Who is it? It's Brink Insanity, which managed to complete that nuke first. How far away are we? Well, we're a mile off, and look where that nuke is going. Please tell me one of your teammates has a strategic missile defense up and running in front of you. I really don't think they do. That is going to be a horrible blow for Team 2, who've been doing pretty well on most fronts. That nuke is going to tear a hole in their air player at the back there. Big Bang going to get his comm out of the blast zone. No issues there, but his entire base will be destroyed. The air HQs, all of the power grid, virtually all of the build capacity, although a chunk of it gets out to the right and to the north there as well. He's literally left with just one mass storage remaining. That's it. And that is why a strategic missile defense, in my opinion, would have been a better call. But Brink has to be happy with that. Is now going to be sitting pretty in terms of air production. Of course, still has the issue of this horde of ASF. So it's not like that immediately hands air superiority to Team 1. 83 ASFs in play for Team 2. Let's look at how many Brink's got. I don't think he's got quite that many. Well, he hasn't, is the answer to that. 36. He's gone a different way with it. He's producing strap bombers for the moment. But that is really, really cruel for Team 2. Just a single exclamation mark there from Lord Ratto says it all. Totally avoidable situation, but there you go. Ionic still with his base in good shape, now working on an Ithota, and I'm really surprised Hickstry backed off out of that. Obviously didn't feel safe where he was, felt a little bit exposed, and instead retreated and has gotten Ithota online first. Remember, of course, if he loses this, as long as he can stop Ionic from taking it, he's not actually given up any territory. The midpoint is here, which he's currently sitting on, and he's still got control of the top left mechs as well. So in terms of eco, or in terms of map control, Team 2 still doing okay. The question is, will they be able to hold on to that now that they have had their rear guard air player crippled? Big Bang hastily trying to reconstruct everything in his base. Hardest part will be getting that power grid back online ASAP. And of course, that nuke launcher still a threat. Well on its way to building another one. Looks like to be about 15-20% done on that so far. Odd unit Verono straying into Ravager range up front. Flying Potato doing well to manage to hold on to that forward position there, despite the roaming Fat Boy that was up front, but managed to deal with that reasonably well. And that Megalith for Chevalier finally reaches the front of Team 1's base, but eats a couple of strap bombs for a welcome, and then meets a shielded Ithota with a horde of Othams as well. I'm pretty sure that Megalith isn't going to last too long. HP melts, and that is a nice little mass gift for Dark Anubis right there. Big Bang brings out his ASFs, no doubt wanting to snag some of those strap bombers that were recalled. But Hickstry now inbound with his Ithota. Didn't want to try and storm Ionic's position, instead wheels right to try and take on Flying Potato and Verosa. Verosa has a Fat Boy in play. And spotting the issue, Brink sends all of his strap bombers to try and deplete some of that Ithota's HP before it reaches the front line. Down to around 46,000 HP after that first pass. All the time, of course, taking extra Fat Boy fire. Flying Potato still in the area with that ACU, as well as Verosa. Verosa, though, considerably more robust with that personal shield. Ideally, though, you don't want to be standing next to an Ithota for too long with your comm. That Ithota, for the moment, working primarily on the Fat Boy. Photon Cannon dispatches the Fat Boy, but manage to put any pressure on the ACUs before he succumbs to all of that fire. The Ion Storm doing more damage to his own units than the enemy structures. And an Ithota inbound now from Dark Anubis, who no doubt would like to exact some revenge on behalf of Rosa and Potato, who've been forced out of the center by this base of PD creep, which he should now try to destroy. Interesting, going after one unit of mobile flak there. I'll get prioritization. I think ideally you'd want to be working on those triads. Ionic now moving up with his Ithota. Take back the top left corner. Actually, in the last 5 minutes or so, things haven't gone brilliantly for Team 2. Take aside that nuke, of course. Even so, on the ground, they've lost the top left corner, lost the midpoint in the top left. Yes, they managed to take out a few units on the front, but they've deposited a huge amount of mass on Team 1's side of the map, really for not killing very much at all. And now Team 1 set poised to reclaim a lot of that and throw it straight back at them. Another megalith under construction there for Chevalier. Big Bang in a much more comfortable position than he was a moment ago. Has a couple of T3 mexes in the core base online. Soon to be a third. That's at 95% on its way to an upgrade to T3. Another one over here as well. So actually, Big Bang getting back into this nice and quickly. Always good to see. Of course, he's had control of this whole portion of the map as well, and an extra mass point or two up here, which will have helped in an awful lot. However, resourcing options up here well under threat now. Not even just under threat. Extinct would be a better term. Ionic doing some great work here, having been pressed back for the last 20 minutes or so. Now must be relishing this chance to advance. I'm still impressed that he managed to hold on to that. A number of occasions I thought he was a goner. I like the fact that he's got some SMD in there as well, although not a threat now. I'm pretty sure the only person who was working on a nuke launcher, or had a nuke launcher, was Big Bang. That went up in the explosion, of course. We do know have an SMD in place there now for Ratto, so that protects him and Big Bang. If we take a quick look at the radius on that, you can see it also covers pretty much all of Hickstry's base as well. But still nothing to stop Brink going in with some strap bombs and taking that out. And it won't be long before he has another nuke. You can see a lot of build capacity around that nuke launcher now, spamming that up. He's getting another upgrade on his commander as well. Let's see what he's doing there. Well, he's got the T3. Well, hello. So microwave laser generator online. And now we have the personal teleporter as well. So Brinko Insanity with the Masercom ready to go at a moment's notice. We'll be looking to snipe someone on Team 2 relatively soon. Is in a good position to do so. 34 minutes gone in this one. And look at the horde of Ithotas for Dark Anubis, having reclaimed a lot of that mass. Fat Boy in the center for Oh No is going to need to back up. Oh, and he's gone. He's gone, and he's down the bottom. Brinko Insanity selects a Big Bang as his target, and Big Bang actually manages to escape out of there. I think it might have been spotted. You can see a couple of units of T1 PD dotted around the place, so he must have known it was on the cards, but Big Bang seems to have escaped. But he won't relish the view of seeing his base going up, and Brink promptly teleports back out of there, straight back up to his base, where he's got a nuke very nearly done. So Brink really dismantling Team 2 bit by bit. The assault in the center still ongoing now from Dark Anubis, who finally loses his second chicken. The third one up here succumbs to pressure as well. So that is all of his main firepower down, all of his main tanks. So those Othams don't fancy going up against all of that in the center. They're going to back up, and of course now, as Ono rightly says, now we have mass. Sort of imagining he'll go again. Looks like he is. It looks like that's a charging beacon ready to go. And there he goes. And has he gone back after him again? Yes, he has. Would you look at that? And that is why this game so badly needs teleport inhibitor. It's frightening. Down he goes. So Big Bang, the first to be ejected from the game at the 36 3/4 minute mark. Brink wants to get out of there pretty quickly though, because Ono is harassing his comm with strap bombers. He's down to around 8.5k, but he manages to teleport out of there. So a nice little snipe there from Brink O in the Sanity. Back he goes. A little bit worse for wear, but still in relatively good shape. With a nuke that he can fire at any time. And I like this call. I like it an awful lot. Ionic going straight for an experimental bomber. Now with the demise of Big Bang, of course, all of those ASFs destroyed. All that's left in terms of air power now for Team 2 are the 20 ASFs that belong to Ono and the handful of T1 interceptors dotted around the map from him and his other teammates. And with a little coordination from him and Brink, should be able to keep that experimental bomber in good shape. There's not been a huge amount of air usage in this game, so the anti-air cover has been quite loosely knitted. One pass from strap bombers there for Brink going after the Fat Boys. In come the ASFs from Oh No. He's going to be able to pick off a few of those, but he will lose all of those ASFs. And now it would seem that Flying Potato is starting to produce ASFs of his own as well. And look how quickly that experimental bomber is being built. Rato announced to his team that he's now got coverage for anti-nuke. But how long he can hold on to that now that there's an experimental bomber threat about to go live any second. I hope he's ballsy enough to use it immediately. Certainly should be used sooner rather than later. Potentially dismantle the front line in a couple of passes. Yeah, there are a fair few SAMs on the ground up there and over here. We'll see how well he scouted out the area. That attack waypoint coming in for Hickstry's base. Not a lot of air cover on that side of things. That should be an easy strike right in the center of an unshielded base. That's an awful lot of kills. 65 kills right off the bat. Very nicely done indeed. Hickstry now crippled. Already was attempting to expand into Big Bang's old base. The ASF coverage and the lack of any major anti-air cover, there's nothing that Team 2 can do about this bomber threat now as he hover bombs Chevalier from the back, takes out all of that core mass. Has all the time in the world just to pick his targets carefully. Personally, I would go in after Lord Ratto at this point, take out that anti-nuke. A few issues getting the bombing run sorted though. Actually, Hickstrey has been spamming together a few T3 anti-airs, so Sams needs to get moving with whatever he's going to attack and evacuate if he wants to hold on to that bomber and really make use of it. Meanwhile, an impending push now from Chevalier, sending in his bricks and that second megalith, but there's so much counterfire coming in. Not convinced it's going to get a great deal done. In goes a third bomb, takes out 2 T3 mexes and associated mass. Up goes the support commander at the front of the base, and in trying to return, the experimental bomber gets shot down, but careers headlong into Ono's front line and takes out just about everything of value. Look at all of those destroyed players. You almost couldn't have planned that better. Very nicely done indeed. Two fat boys in the center for Oh No, trying to lay down fire on top of Barosa's base. Sorry, 3 fat boys now, but running headlong into a wall of Othams, and that much fire will take them down pretty quick. No shield in operation on that central one. Down it goes, along with strap bombs coming in from Brink. I shouldn't think that last one will pose any more of a threat, especially with Percival's coming in from Barossa. We do have a GC from Ratto, but there's so much counterfire coming in. Might potentially take a few structures out at the front. Now with strap bombers on the case as well. Definitely needs to get moving now that he's dispatched those Percivals. And some T3 artillery in place over here as well. Flying Potatoes building a Duke, another one. But one Seraphim one then belonging to Anubis. And that's now raining down on top of Ratto, who loses a T3 P-Gen out of it. We do have a Duke that's actually not far off being completed, belonging to Oh No up the front there, but how long he's going to have to get that online before Team 1 find a way to deal with it. So that nuke still ready, of course, for Brink, and a third one nearly in place for him as well. And of course, at any time, assuming he hasn't got rid of it, can attempt another tele-snipe. Still has Teleporter and Mazer on board. Chevalier coming in with yet another megalith, trying to find a weak spot somewhere, but ton of Ravager fire and Fatboy fire colliding with its superstructure in the side there. And now, with Othams advancing in pretty serious number, it's again another experimental gifted into the hands of Team 1. They've done very well out of the reclaim side of things. In fact, take a look at, they've managed to pull in from that. So 49,200 banked from Anubis. Flying Potato, another upfront player, 78,500. And Verosa is 46,000. How does that compare with Ono? Well, Ono's pulled in a huge haul at 121,000. All of the stuff going on in the center, he's managed to take advantage of. Ionic trying to sneak in a Ethota, but that gets taken down by one of Ratto's GCs. And a bit of a chain reaction there as a T3 artillery shell detonates T3 power plant, takes out an extractor and associated mass storage and mass fabs. I think that Duke will likely be a priority target now. Is it even going to get a shell off? There it is. And the shield does blink back on. But I can't see it doing much of anything at this point. In fact, I cannot see Team 2 doing much of anything at this point, really. They have been well and truly crippled. Pyramid really is the king of standoff tactics in terms of maps. And there it was. We knew it was coming at some point. Brinko Insanity telemasering into Ratto's base and takes him out of commission. And importantly as well, that nuke launcher has, sorry, that anti-nuke has gone as well. There is another one up front for Ono, but it doesn't actually have an anti-nuke in it. Chevalier to the right does, though, and there's two anti-nuke missiles in there. You can see the coverage does protect most of Ono's base. Of course, you could land a nuke just outside of there and it would still destroy most of it. Get the sense, though, that Brink just toying with people a little bit now. He's happier to dip in and out, pick things off with strap bombers, dip in and out with his ACU, and not rely on the nukes, of which he now has two sitting in that silo. And Ono getting picked off by a strap bomber. And then there were two for Team 2. Anubis certainly enjoyed this one in terms of survival. Well, you can't argue with the fact that Team 2 had them on the back foot. And it really was that nuke that turned everything around. Nuke and the telemaser, of course, but slightly less impressive. And now Hickstrey faces a horde of Othams with a couple of Ethotas coming in as well from Ionic. And this has got to feel pretty good after the assault he was under not 20-25 minutes ago. Up at the top left, all that territory has been captured, and now that main base in sight. Hickstrey with about as many T1 PDs. Well, he doesn't want to get telemated. I think that's pretty clear. It's such a clunky defense, though, against the Maser. It's always been my issue. Ugly, clunky, not really fit for purpose. Another ton of T1 PD down here as well. But a second experimental bomber now coming in from Ionic, going after Chevalier's base. The first bomb detonates on the shield and takes them out. But Chevalier, with a pretty sizable horde of ASFs, is able to shoot that down without it really dealing any damage. But another telemaser, and this time Brink is going to get what's coming to him, which is always nice to see. Down he goes to that horrendous wall of T1 PD, but the Ethotas will get the job done anyway, and Hickstery follows on not long after. Don't even know what happened to that nuke. And then there was one, and I'm not surprised to see that it's Chevalier, but even he won't be able to withstand what's coming. Two fat boys coming in the north from Flying Potato, one Ethota coming in from Dark Anubis, three Ethotas coming in from Ionic, and a ton of Othams to boot. There is literally nothing that he can do about it. Now he's got T3 artillery raining down on him as well. Chevalier gets in place under a few shield gems, ready to overcharge and save the day, or not. In comes another experimental bomber, and that'll do it. Down goes Chevalier, calling a halt to the game on the cusp of 50 minutes. Well, an unusual one to be sure, certainly entertaining. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Thanks to Brinko Insanity for sending that one in. He says it's never fun to cast himself. I agree with him, especially when you single-handedly dismantle your opponents. Not that I know what that feels like, but anyway, props for sending that one in, bro. Was entertaining to be sure. As I say, I hope you guys enjoyed it. More to come from me in the future, but in the meantime, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile signing out.